So, welcome to compatibility and selection on week 2, where we are looking at building and configuring computer systems. So, we'll be looking at, we're exploring the critical concepts of choosing compatible computer components. Components compatibility refers to the ability of different hardware components or parts to come together and work together efficiently in a computer system. So this is vital because compatible components, incompatible components, two components that are not compatible can lead to system failure, poor performance, and even damage to the hardware. So we'll cover the main components, the CPU, the motherboard, the RAM, the storage, power supply, and graphics card in this lesson. So we'll start with the CPU, which is often called the brain of the computer. When selecting a CPU, consider these key factors. The socket type. You have to consider the socket type. So what are you to look out for? The socket type. This must match your motherboard. So the socket type on the motherboard must match with the socket type of the CPU you are buying. They have pinless. So you must look on your motherboard to know which kind of socket your motherboard is using for you to know the kind of socket and the CPU to buy. Then there are two common types too. We have AM4 for AMD and LGA 1200 for Intel. So you have Intel processor, you have AMD processor. So AM4 is actually mostly for AMD and LGA 1200 are mostly for Intel. That's the first thing to look out for. Then two, you look out for the generation and the family. So newer generations often offer better performance than and efficiency than older generation. So when you are getting processor, also look out for the generation of the processor. So this is another issue to look at for. Then the clock speed and cores. Higher clock speed and more cores generally mean better performance, especially for multitasking. So the more thing to look at for is actually higher clock speed and more cores generally mean your system will perform better and more, especially when you are doing multitasking, it performs better. Then another factor to look out for is actually power requirements. This affects the choice of your cooling solution and power supply. So remember, the CPU choice often dictates many other component selection. So it's a good starting point. So your CPU dictates the kind of RAM, the kind of graphic card, and all those other stuff you need. So always make sure that your CPU is actually planned out and is actually sorted out correctly. And another factor we need to look at is for also the motherboard. The motherboard is the central hub connecting all components. So the key consideration include the CPU socket compatibility must match your choosing CPU. So if you have chosen your CPU, the motherboard you have to purchase must match that CPU. Then two, the form factor. This determines the size and the case capability. So if you have ATX, which is standard, while micro ATX and mini ITX are for smaller builds. So whatever you're building for, if you're building for just normal desktop, you can use your ATX, which is standard one. Then if you're going for smaller desktops, you can go for micro ATX and a mini ATX. So this is actually what determines what you want to go for. So you choose your form factor and also your chipset features, which affects overclocking capabilities like the PCE lanes and supportable technology. So make sure that you choose your chipset features like, is it 64-bit, is it 32-bit? Mostly now, what is the motherboards, you must not get any motherboard that's 32-bit, actually 64-bit. And can it allow overclocking? Overclocking means increasing the limit of what your system can do, pushing it beyond its normal limits. Then does it have PCI lanes? The PCIe lanes, are they much? Are they okay? Are they supported by the latest, in case you want to do upgrade? Will they support the upgrade you'll be performing, the latest ones that will be coming at least for some years? Then other stuff you need to look out for is actually your expansion slot and connectivity. Ensure it has the right slot on your graphics card and storage and other components. Make sure that the slots are compatible with other stuff you'll be getting that you'll be slotting or inserting into the motherboard, like your graphics card, your storage, and also other components. So make sure it has that compatibility. Then always check the motherboard CPU compatibility list before purchasing. So every motherboard has compatibility list. You access their website, go check the compatibility list of the CPU before you purchase. Then the other one we need to look out for, the RAM is crucial for system performance. So we need to consider these factors. One, the type of RAM. Current systems typically use DDR4, while newer ones only support DDR5. So you can know whether you want to go for DDR4 or DDR5. So these are actually what you look for. I'm not talking about DDR3 because that one is going instinct. So most RAMs are DDR4 and the newer ones support DDR5. So this is actually what you need to go for in case you are building or you actually want to upgrade your PC. These are actually things to look out for. Then capacity. 16 gig is standard for most users. So you can look at, am I getting 16 gig RAM or 32 gig RAM? Then if you are going for heavy duty work, I consider you using 32 gig RAM or more for heavy multitasking or professional work like video editing and graphic animation, all those kind of work, architectural designs. So you need higher RAM. Then another thing to look out for is speed and timing. Higher speed can improve performance. So make sure that your RAM has a higher speed, but ensure your motherboard and CPU support it. So even though you are looking for higher speed, that's why it's good to look out for the CPU and RAM. Make sure that the CPU and the motherboard you are getting can support higher speed of RAM, so that when you are purchasing the higher speed of RAM, it will be compatible and it will work well. Then compatibility with the motherboard. Check your motherboard QVL, which is actually quality vendor list, for guaranteed compatibility. So remember, missing different RAM types and speed can cause instability and prevent the system from booting. So make sure that you have one type of RAM and the system RAM type, and also the speed should be the same, so that you not have this instability in your computer system. The next step to look out for is for storage. Consider these aspects. So you have SSD versus HDD. SSD offers faster speed but at a higher cost per gigabyte, while HDD provides more storage at a lower price. So you need to look out for the form factor. Is it 2 inches drive fit into most cases, while M2 drives save space and can be faster? So look at, is it 2 inches drive you are getting, or you're actually going for M2 drives that are actually smaller and they fit into more space. So if you look over here, this is actually M2 drive. And this is actually your 2 inches drive. So you know whether are you going for SSD 2 inches or you are going for this one to save more space. Then you also look at the interference. SATA is standard, while NVM offers more higher speed for M2 drive. So you look at your standard. If you are doing high processing work, I think you may go for SATA and HDD. Should in case for storage, more storage, and also for more processing power. Then check your capacity. Check the capacity and the speed. Balance your need for storage space and performance. So look at the capacity you are purchasing and also the speed of what you are purchasing. Modern systems often use an SSD for operating system and frequently use apps with an HDD for bulk storage. So if you are actually working with files that systems that have large files like video editing, animation, I think consider you using HDD for storage. Then your SSD should be the one running your processes and every other thing. So you can do that. So the PCU is often overlooked but crucial for system stability. Consider the wattage, which is calculated based on your system and components power draw. So your components, what is the power they draw? So calculate that. Then also allow for some headroom. That means allowance should in case for any upgrade. Then efficiency rating. Make sure that the higher efficiency you have means that you have less power wasting. and heat. So actually make sure you look for a CPU, a PCU that have 80 plus certification, so that your power rating will not waste much power and heat. The modulity, make sure that modulated CPU actually allows you to use only the cables you need, improving cable management. So make sure that on your motherboard, those cables that are on your motherboard, get a CPU that actually matches is completely, may not be exactly, but completely with most of all those power slot sockets on your motherboard, so that you not have cable wasting. There are sometimes you look at CPU, you see some cable flying out, nothing are connected to it. So don't avoid that. So if you are using a two SSD or two storage, you're not using DVD drive, you're only using SSD. Make sure that you look for power card that supplies only two. Don't go and get one that has more, so that you not have this wastage of power and your PC or your system unit to look dirty because of some cables that will be flying around. Then connector types. Make sure that you ensure that all the necessary connectors for your component, especially for the high-end graphics, are available on the PCU. A quality PCU is a wise investment for system longevity and also stability. That we need to look at on the graphics card. So consider compatibility. Ensure your motherboard has a suitable PCIe slot and your case can fit the card length. So look at the card you are getting. Is it longer than your case? If it's longer than, so look for a shorter graphics card that can fit inside the length of that your the slot for the PCIe slot. Also, power requirement. Make sure that your power requirement is actually matched with the connection types on your motherboard. So check for power rating and connector types required. Then performance needs. So balance your budget with performance requirement for intended use. So let your budget balance with the performance requirement for what you want to use it for. Don't go and buy something that is above your performance requirement, which will actually affect your PCU. Then check out for display connectors. Display connectors, ensure compatibility with your monitor. Let it be compatible with monitor. Don't go and buy a high graphics system graphics card, install it on your RAM, and go and get this 15 inches or 12 inches LCD. It's not compatible. Or we think maybe you'll be going for either smart TV, or you usually use LED or OLED TVs. That is actually what brings out the graphics of your graphics card. So these are actually what you need to look out for. Make sure that it's compatible with the display connectors that will be connecting to your system. Remember, high-end graphics card often require robust cooling solutions and power supply. So if you're adding high graphics, make sure you know how to actually manage the cooling system. So if you don't have much budget for the cooling solution, just make sure you go for a lower graphics that will actually deliver your job and get your work done. So don't forget these additional factors. So make sure you look for your case size must accommodate your chosen components and provide good airflow. So make sure you look out for the case size, the case you're using, the computer case you want to use. So make sure that it actually accommodates all the components and actually allows good for airflow to pass through. Then cooling, consider both fans and CPU cooler compatibility. So consider the fan that you're using and the CPU cooler. So consider the both of them. Then future upgrades. Look at, oh, in case I'm getting, make sure that you choose components that allow for future expansion if needed. So if you want to expand, it can actually accommodate the expansion. Then budget. So balance performance with cost, prioritizing crucial components. So make sure that your budget matches with your performance. So don't say, okay, you actually wants to do and go into animation or gaming, and you're building a system for yourself, and you're working with a low budget when you need a high performance system. No, it's actually not advisable. Always plan your build holistically. So plan everything before you build. All this we talked about. Go to their website, do your research, draft out everything, make sure everything is calculated properly before considering each component choice, because each one affects the other one. So if you have high CPU, low RAM, it affects you. So make sure you consider everything and let everything be balanced so that this one is accommodating this one and the other one is accommodating the other one. So these are other considerations. Then several resources are actually available for you to check your compatibility. We have the PCPartPicker, a fantastic tool that checks compatibility on your select components. Then you can visit manufacturer's website. Always check for the most up-to-date specifications and compatibility list. You can go online to check for the manufacturer website and to see which one works better. Then online platforms like Reddit and Build a PC can provide you valuable insight and advice. So you can actually go on online forums and communities to actually check for valuable insight and advice. Use these tools, but always double check crucial compatibility yourself. So you can use them to actually get insight and but also double check that, oh, what these people are telling me and it matches with what I'm trying to build and my budget. So these are things you need to look at for. Then our conclusion, to conclude, selecting compatible components is crucial for building a reliable and efficient computer system. Remember to start with the CPU and build around the CPU. Ensure all components are compatible with each other and consider future upgrade parts. Use available tools and resources for compatibility checking. Don't hesitate to seek advice from experienced builders or professional. You can go into it now, you can contact, the world is a global village. You can seek advice from professionals, you can seek advice from builders. You can actually reach me out or through our class platform or any of the platforms. You can reach anyone out for advice and better professional advice. So are there any other questions you will want about the component compatibility and selection? You can actually drop it in the comment section below, or you slide to our Google Classroom platforms, drop your comments and on the stream, and we'll actually respond, and you can actually network with some other students that are actually doing this course. Thank you and see you in our next class.